On Mother's Day, my daughter gave her mother-in-law a $20,000 ring and a cruise. I got a $5 plastic flower and a note. The next day, she called me 28 times. Please, Mom, don't sell the company. It was too late for regrets. I'm 67 years old and I thought I'd experienced every kind of heartbreak life could offer. I was wrong. Mother's Day started like any other Sunday. I woke up in my empty house, made coffee for one, and tried not to think about how quiet everything had become since Harold passed 3 years ago. The silence used to comfort me, but lately it just reminded me of all the conversations that would never happen again. Oilia had called the night before, her voice distant and formal. Mom, we're having brunch at David's mother's house tomorrow. You should come. 1 o'clock sharp. Should come. Not we'd love to have you or please join us, just an obligation disguised as an invitation. I arrived at Patricia's house precisely at 1 o'clock. The driveway was already full of expensive cars and I could hear laughter spilling from the backyard. Patricia had always been everything I wasn't. Polished, social, effortlessly elegant. Her house looked like something from a magazine, all white marble and fresh flowers. When I walked through the gate, I saw them gathered around the patio table. Oilia sat beside Patricia, their heads close together, sharing some private joke. My son-in-law David was grilling, acting every bit the devoted son Patricia had raised him to be. Colleen, Patricia called out, her smile perfectly practiced. So glad you could make it. Oilia looked up and gave me a quick nod. Hi, Mom. You can sit over there. She gestured to an empty chair at the far end of the table away from the main conversation. I sat down quietly watching as everyone chatted about things I wasn't part of. David's sister was there with her children. Patricia's bridge club friends, even the neighbors. Everyone seemed to belong except me. Then came the gift exchange. Oh, Patricia. We have something special for you. Oilia announced, standing up with an excitement I hadn't seen from her in years. David appeared beside her, carrying a small velvet box and an envelope. Patricia gasped when she opened the box. Inside was a stunning diamond ring, the kind that catches light from across the room. Oilia, honey, this is too much. It's not too much for the woman who raised such an incredible son. Oilia gushed, hugging Patricia tightly. And there's more. The envelope contained cruise tickets, 2 weeks in the Mediterranean, first-class accommodations. Patricia actually started crying and everyone applauded while Oilia beamed with pride. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. $20,000 at least, maybe more. And now for Grandma Colleen, David said, though his voice had lost some of its enthusiasm. Oilia walked over to me carrying a small gift bag. Inside was a plastic flower, the kind you'd find at a dollar store, and a card that looked like it had been grabbed from a drugstore rack at the last minute. I opened the card. The printed message said, Happy Mother's Day. And underneath in Oilia's handwriting, thanks for everything, Mom. Thanks for everything. Like I was the cashier at a grocery store. The table went quiet. I could feel everyone staring, waiting for my reaction. Patricia cleared her throat uncomfortably. Even David looked embarrassed. It's lovely, I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Thank you, dear. But Oilia had already turned back to Patricia, launching into an animated story about the cruise destinations they'd chosen. The conversation moved on without me, and I sat there holding my $5 plastic flower, feeling smaller than I had in years. I stayed for another hour, watching my daughter lavish attention on a woman she'd known for 12 years while treating me like an afterthought. When I finally said I needed to leave, Oilia barely looked up. Thanks for coming, Mom. Drive safe. The drive home was a blur. I kept thinking about that ring, those cruise tickets, the pure joy on Oilia's face when she gave them. When was the last time she'd looked at me that way? When was the last time she'd put thought into anything she gave me? I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car for a long time, staring at that ridiculous plastic flower. 43 years of being her mother, and this is what I was worth. A last-minute afterthought from the clearance aisle. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene, wondering where I'd gone wrong. I'd built a successful company from nothing, employed dozens of people, contributed to my community. But somehow I'd failed at the one thing that mattered most. Being worthy of my daughter's love. I got up and walked to my home office where I kept all the important documents, financial statements, tax returns, business contracts, everything that represented my life's work. And that's when I started to wonder what exactly had I built all of this for. The sleepless night turned into a sleepless week. I couldn't stop thinking about that plastic flower, about the way Oilia had looked at Patricia with such genuine affection. It ate at me like a physical ache. I decided I needed answers. Not the kind that come from confrontation or dramatic conversations, but real answers. The kind hidden in bank statements and old receipts. I spent the next Saturday in my office, pulling out filing cabinets I hadn't touched in years. Harold used to tease me about being a pack rat, keeping every document, every receipt. You never know when you might need proof, I tell him. I never imagined I'd need proof of my own motherhood. The first file I opened was labeled Oilia College. Inside were tuition payments, room and board receipts, and dozens of smaller expenses I'd forgotten about. Books, a laptop, even parking tickets she'd gotten on campus. $47,000 total, not including the car I'd bought her junior year when hers broke down. But that was just the beginning. I found the folder marked Wedding O&D. $58,000 for a single day. The venue, flowers, catering, her dress, the photographer. I'd insisted on paying for everything because I wanted her day to be perfect. David's parents had contributed a case of wine. Then came the house files. When Oilia and David got married, they'd wanted to buy a home in the exclusive Riverside district. Their combined income wasn't enough for the mortgage on the house they wanted. So, I'd co-signed. Then, when David's business hit a rough patch 2 years later, I'd quietly taken over the mortgage payments for 6 months. They never knew I'd made sure of that. The car payments were next. 3 different vehicles over the years. Each one just a loan until we get back on our feet. Somehow those loans never got repaid and I never asked.